Every game in chess we look at has some invisible parts of strategy, such as activity of the pieces. And when we say activity of the pieces, it's a very wide subject. So when we talk about activity, there is such a thing as a good knight and versus bad bishop, or good bishop versus good knight, or good bishop versus bad bishop. And there are criteria which you have to go by to notice them. When we talk about activities of the pieces, there is also two different kinds of activities. There's two different kinds of bad pieces. Bad piece that temporarily stands not the best way, but can be activated very next move, that's called some dynamically bad piece. Or there is a statically bad pieces, mostly bishops. Let's look at them. Let's look at statically bad pieces, passive pieces. E4, E6, that's one of the examples. D4, D5, French defense, bishop b4, e5, c5, bishop d2, knight e7, knight b5. This is the variation I am recommending in my opening tapes, but we're not going to go with this, discussing this opening part. So bishop takes d2, queen takes d2, black castles, white goes f4, c takes d, knight f3, knight c6, knight takes d4, b takes d4, black plays bishop d7, white castles long, black plays knight takes d4, knight takes d4, knight c6. Now let's look at this position and let's discuss. We know what the bad piece is here. If you have some kind of a chess education, then you can notice the bad piece is black's light square bishop. This is bad piece because it's blocked by black's pawns. Black's f7, e6, d5 pawn structure determines and makes that light square bishop bad. Now, after knight c6, the correct move for white is to play knight f3. Now, why? Is that mean because our knight is better than black's knight? No. Knights are about they have equal value here. They are equally good. But what why we're playing knight f3 is just to show how bad, to take advantage of bad position of d7 bishop. What the knight has to do with it. Okay, suppose we don't move knight f3 and we play something like king b1. Then black is going to take on d4. We take back, queen takes d4, and black can play something like queen a5, and you can tell that when bishop comes to b5, or next move possibly, then light square bishops will be exchanged, and there goes white's main advantage, where they have the superiority of the bishop, white light square bishop against black's light square bishop, over black's light square bishop. So the way to play this position is knight f3. Now we notice that black is going to have very, very hard time exchanging light square bishops. At the same time, white prepares for kingside attack by playing bishop d3. For example, black plays rook c8, bishop d3. Let's say they play queen b6 now. What we're going to do in this position, there are three different ways to continue playing this position for white. One is go g4, f5, which is which may be very effective, and with the idea of f6 getting very strong attack on king side. The other way to play is to try to play h4, rook h3, rook g3. Also not bad way to play. And the third way, there is a combination here. Bishop takes h7. King must take on h7. Now knight g5 check. And when black goes king g8, now queen d3. This is little unusual combination. Now you see queen h7 mate is threatening, so only response for black is to play rook e8 or rook d8, and there is no g6 defense because after queen h3 black is getting mated in a couple of moves. So, and after rook moves from f8, for example, to d8, it doesn't really matter, actually, we get identical position. Rook d8, queen h7, king f8, queen h8 check, king g7, and queen takes g7, queen g7, and now black must go rook f8. Let's briefly stop on this position. White has 2 pawns for a sacrificed piece. We see half-dead bishop on d7, and white has overwhelming attack with possible f5 and f6, and white's position is very close, if not winning, very close to it. So now we have this position, and suppose the last move, black's last move was rook c8. Now that they realize that white has overwhelming threat, suppose they go f6. Now, remember, the bottom line here is white's main advantage here is the black's light square bishop. If black goes f6, now bishop takes h7. Combination doesn't work, but we can take on f6, rook takes f6, and we play rook h to e1. You see again, dark square weaknesses and bishop that most probably will never be activated. Bishop on d7. So this position considered very bad. There are ways to play this position. Some people may like, instead of rook e1, going g4 and g5. Some would like to attack right away, but I think most rational way is to play rook h to e1, and white has overwhelming control in the center, and e6 pawn is very weak. Now let's go a few moves back and discuss this position from a different standpoint. The position where we played knight f3. We played knight f3 in this position. If we take off 2 pieces of the board here, we take off the board bishop on f1 and knight on c6, then we're going to have very classical example of dominating piece on d4 versus permanently dead bishop. This is permanently bad because not even in next 30 or 40 moves there is a possible way, with a reasonable play for white, that this bishop can be activated. So this position is bad, but since we don't have a luxury of exchanging light square bishop for knight, after black's knight c6 we go knight f3 and just keep an advantage of our bishop against a light square bishop, and now we have space too, so we have good chances of developing very strong kingside attack. Let's look at the other example of the same nature, same pattern we use, different opening, and we can see those examples almost in every opening. So what you have to remember, what you have to do is you have to understand the idea what our good pieces are statically. That's the subject we're discussing now. For example, d4, f5, this is Dutch opening, knight f3, knight f6, bishop g5, e6, knight d2, bishop e7. Here's white makes decision. They want an active play. Bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, and play e4. F takes e, knight takes e4. So that's what white's plan is. White wants to play bishop d3, queen e2, castle long side, and if black castle short, to develop king side attack. You see the aim of those pieces, bishop on d3, knight on f4, push king side pawns and get very strong attack. Well, however, this we made just several moves in a row for white, and in this position is a black's move. And suppose black plays something like d5. We'll play knight takes f6, queen takes f6, we go bishop d3, black castles, white castles, and black goes knight c6. How should this position be treated? This position is nearly won for white. Nearly won. What we have to do, we have to keep an eye on one very important aspect of this strategy. Weak square on e5. A lot of people may say, what's a one square? How can it be so decisive? Because, let me show you why. If we go bishop b5, now we're totally dominating e5 square, because we want to exchange knight for bishop after bishop d7, bishop takes c6, bishop takes c6, and now we have total control on e5 square. e5 square is controlled by us, and bishop on c6 will never see light of day. So knight e5 at this point is inaccurate move. It's a bad move because black plays bishop b5, attacking rook on f1, and on after rook e1, queen takes f2 check. So what we have to do, just to prevent this is only threat by black, by playing maybe something like a4, restricting the bishop on c6, and after this play knight e5. Now white strategically is totally winning. We cannot go now through this all the way to the end of the game, because then we will have no other subjects we can discuss here. So what we do here, playing a4, restricting bishop, dominating e5 square, we have strategically absolutely winning position. Now let's go back. Those are the couple of examples of permanently or statically bad piece, which is very, very bad for the side who is having it. But mostly we see statically bad bishop in French defense, when black plays French defense. However, you may ask, why does some strong players, some very strong players, to play French defense? Because it's very sophisticated opening, and they do have bad bishop, but frequently it gets activated and being compensated by other symptoms in the game. We cannot discuss this now. Now let's look at another activity of the pieces, and let's talk about passive pieces, which is not static but dynamic. Dynamic means that piece may not be standing very well, but can be easily activated. So when we say dynamically bad piece, it's a bad piece in that particular part of the game, and it's very time sensitive. Position may completely change if we don't take advantage of it in 2 or 3 moves. But in a static example, this is not happening. The position of when there is a bad piece, it stays bad for a long time.